if you take a fish and you try to feed it to a sheep, the sheep will literally starve before it takes a single bite.
Right, yeah.
But a cat, I mean, the cat will just devour it instantly. And you might think, well, it's just about taste buds or, evolutionary preference.
Sure, just basic biology.
Exactly.
Right.
But what if the answer goes much, much deeper than that, like fundamentally deeper?
Mhm.
Today on the Deep Dive, we are exploring a really fascinating text. It's from 2008 by an author named Su Feng, and it's titled Advanced Cultivation, Creating the Supercelestial Structure to Absorb Special Energy.
It is quite the title,
It
yeah.
really is. And our mission today for you listening is to unpack this highly unique mental model because it basically blends thermodynamics, biology, and spirituality into this one grand theory of longevity and, well, human potential.
Yeah, and it is just a fascinating lens to look through. And I should say right up front, we aren't here to endorse this framework as, absolute truth or take any spiritual stance on it.
Right. Completely impartial.
Exactly. We just want to pull it apart impartially. We want to see how the author constructs this worldview for you, step by logical step, because he begins with very mundane physical facts and then scales it all the way up to literal immortality.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the entire text, the whole thing, hinges on a single foundational premise. The author argues that the differences between absolutely all things, whether it's an animal, a rock, a human, it all lies purely in their structures.
Yeah, and that is exactly where your sheep and the cat come in. According to the text, a sheep refuses the fish not out of, habit, but because of its life structure. The biological and energetic architecture of a sheep simply cannot process or interact with that specific input.
Right.
But a cat's structure can.
Yeah, and he rapid fires these examples from the material world to prove this rule, and it really makes you look at your surroundings a bit differently. Like, he points out that metal does not insulate, but asbestos does.
Right.
And rubber doesn't conduct electricity, but, tree bark does.
Or how a sphere can roll across a floor effortlessly while a cube just sits there.
Yeah. Or liquid gasoline burning while water extinguishes fire. I mean, it feels almost overwhelmingly obvious when you list it out like that.
It is obvious, but that is a very deliberate rhetorical strategy on his part. He grounds you in basic physics and chemistry to establish this ironclad rule, which is that structure dictates capability.
Right.
If the underlying structure is different, the function simply must be different.
I really resonated with the example he gives about sound. Like, if you take a massive, heavy temple bell, right, and you strike it with a big wooden log, you get this incredibly deep, resonant tone that just vibrates in your chest and echoes for miles.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you walk into your kitchen and you grab a standard cooking pot and you strike it,
It's just going to clang.
exactly, it's just a harsh clang. And it doesn't matter how hard you hit the pot or how much you practice hitting it or how deeply you wish it would sound like a temple bell, its literal physical structure makes that resonance impossible.
Yeah, and musical instruments work the exact same way. A flute, an erhu, a violin, they produce completely distinct pitches and tones purely because of their unique shapes and their internal chambers.
What's fascinating here is how he uses that cooking pot and that temple bell to set up a massive metaphysical leap. Because we instinctively understand that you cannot make a flat pot echo like a domed bell.
Right. We accept that physical law without question.
Exactly. But the author asks, well, why do we fail to apply that exact same logic to our own biology and our lifespans?
Yeah, and I love how he scales this up to biology. He points out that a queen bee lives for 4 to 5 years, while a normal worker bee lives only about 2 months.
Wow.
And monkeys live around 20 years, humans live about 60 years. And then he introduces this wild concept of super celestial beings who, within this specific framework, can live for thousands, tens of thousands, or even billions of years.
And following his established rule of structure, the reason a human lives 60 years and a super celestial being lives 1 billion years isn't because the celestial being just has, better medicine or a better diet.
Right, no.
It's a fundamental difference in hardware. It's like trying to run an advanced modern software program on a dusty desktop computer from 1990.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, you can't just install the software and hope for the best. The machine will literally freeze up or crash. The hardware lacks the processing power, the memory, the very architecture required to handle that complex input.
Exactly.
So if you want the program to run, or in this case, if you want an incredibly long lifespan, you literally cannot achieve it with a basic 60-year biological structure. You have to physically and spiritually upgrade the hardware.
Which brings us to the core problem of having a biological structure in the physical universe in the first place. Because even if you have good hardware, it degrades over time.
Right.
The text leans heavily into the second law of thermodynamics to explain the mechanism of aging and stagnation.
We're talking about entropy here, right? Like the measure of disorder or randomness in a system.
Correct. In physics, if you have an isolated closed system, it will ultimately reach maximum entropy. The energy disperses, the disorder peaks, and the system hits a state of total equilibrium.
And in biological terms.
In biological terms, total equilibrium is death. The higher the entropy, the closer you are to dying.
Okay, so the goal for anyone listening is to prevent your life's entropy from increasing. And the author argues that the only way to do this is to avoid being a closed system entirely. You have to adopt what he calls a dissipative structure.
Right, which essentially means an open exchanging structure.
Hmm.
He uses this classic proverb to illustrate the mechanism. He says, flowing water does not rot, and a constantly used door hinge does not rust.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, a structure only survives if it is constantly exchanging energy and information with the outside world.
And think about how we see this in everyday life. Like if someone boarded up a house, closed all the windows, locked the doors, that house would succumb to rot and decay way faster than a house that is lived in, cleaned, and exposed to fresh air.
Absolutely.
Or think of a business. A company that refuses to hire outside talent or adopt new technologies is a closed system. It eventually fails. Even a country that completely isolates its borders from the rest of the world will just stagnate.
And it applies directly to the individual mind, too. Like a person who stops learning, who refuses to entertain new perspectives, they develop a rigid mind.
Right?
They are gradually moving toward mental death because entropy is literally building up in their isolation. External energy can no longer enter to disrupt the decay, and the system just suffocates.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The author takes this very hard science concept of thermodynamics and entropy, and he applies it to romantic relationships.
Yeah, this part is wild.
Right. He asks why lovers so often lose their passion once they settle down into a long-term marriage.
And I imagine, many people would blame familiarity or just changing priorities. Life gets busy.
Sure, that's the normal answer. But the author says it's actually a structural failure. When a couple isolates themselves into this closed, tight little unit, their emotional entropy gradually reaches a saturation point.
Interesting.
The energy disperses, the system hits equilibrium, and the passion enters a dead state. He literally argues it is essentially impossible for a single individual to feel the thrill of first love twice unless their emotional structure remains completely open.
Wow. He actually compares it to a pond. Like for a pond to stay as clear as a mirror, perfectly reflecting the sky, fresh living water must continuously flow into it.
Yeah, living water.
The moment the inflow stops, the pond stagnates, gets cloudy, and slowly suffocates the life inside it. That is a really profound warning for you. To maintain vitality in your career, your mind, or your relationships, you just cannot lock the doors. You have to let the living water in.
Okay, so if a closed system is a death sentence and an open system survives, what is the ultimate open system? How do we build this super celestial being structure we talked about?
Well, the author suggests it requires a massive psychological demolition. You have to constantly break down old mindsets to shatter the rigidity that naturally forms in human consciousness.
Right.
He uses this beautiful phrase, urging the reader to experience how, beyond the hills and rivers, a new village emerges, meaning just when you think you've reached the edge of your understanding, you must force yourself to see an entirely new paradigm.
But the specifics of what he wants you to break down are, honestly, really intense.
They are.
He states that to achieve this open structure, you have to free yourself from the restrictive structures of family, political parties, religion, and nationality. And I just have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening attempting this. That sounds terrifying.
It does.
Right. Stripping away family and nationality, those are the very foundations of human identity. That is how we orient ourselves in the world.
This raises an important question, right? Why target the very things that give us comfort and belonging? But if we look at this through the author's thermodynamic lens, nationality, family, and religion are the ultimate closed systems.
Okay, how so?
Well, a nation literally has borders. A political party has a rigid ideology you cannot step outside of without being expelled. A family unit draws a strict line between who is in and who is out. They are safe, yes, but think of them like a very thick, heavy spacesuit.
A spacesuit, okay.
The suit keeps you warm and protected from the void of space, but as long as you are wearing it, you can never actually touch the universe. You are entirely isolated inside it. So the author argues that these labels create massive entropy.
Oh, wow, that spacesuit analogy makes perfect sense. You're trading security for true expansion. Because once you take the suit off, he says you have to expand your consciousness to these massive concepts. The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the celestial islands continent.
And in the context of this text, these aren't just fantasy locations or planets. They represent vastly expanded states of consciousness. The 1,000-year and 10,000-year worlds represent paradigms where time is perceived on a cosmic scale.
Right, completely dwarfing a normal 60-year human lifespan.
Exactly. And the Celestial Islands continent represents an ultimate state of freedom and boundless existence. By forcing your mind to grapple with and inhabit these enormous concepts, your internal hardware naturally upgrades to the super-celestial structure. You stretch the architecture of your mind so wide that it simply cannot close again.
But having the upgraded structure isn't the finish line, is it? I mean, you could have a state-of-the-art mansion with 50 rooms, but if it isn't hooked up to the power grid, you're still just sitting in the dark.
Exactly.
A structure without the right energy is completely useless.
The text uses the analogy of an architect to explain this part. An architect can draw up the most brilliant, flawless blueprints for a massive skyscraper, but without the physical materials, the steel, the glass, the concrete, and the actual labor to build it, that vision remains a hallucination. The blueprint needs raw energy.
And the law of structure dictates exactly what kind of energy can be absorbed. Like, a quarry is structured to hold heavy stone. A flour mill is structured to process wheat and corn.
Herbivores do not eat meat because their biological structure actively rejects it.
Right, and oil and water will never mix because their molecular structures are incompatible. Even a plant leaf, right? It's structured to only absorb very specific wavelengths of sunlight, and it filters out all the rest.
Therefore, if you have done the mental demolition and built the blueprint for a supercelestial structure, you must now pull in the specific high-frequency energy required to power it. The universe is overflowing with energy, but your structure acts as a filter.
So what does this all mean for the actual, practical, physical application? Because the text makes this truly fascinating claim that your physical posture is literally a form of structure.
It is a crucial mechanism in his framework. Whether it is Qigong, yoga, or Buddhist practices, the specific positioning of the body sitting, standing, or forming hand gestures, known as mudras, changes your structural capacity.
Really, just the physical position.
Yes. For example, sitting with a single leg crossed position produces a fundamentally different energetic effect than a double leg crossed position. Having your palms facing upward towards the sky versus facing downward towards the earth totally changes what you can receive. Posture is structure.
That is so interesting. It's like, think about tuning a vintage radio. The invisible radio waves are already in the room with you, broadcasting hundreds of different stations all at once.
Yeah.
But you can't hear them until you physically adjust the metal antenna to catch one specific frequency. Your physical posture, combined with your mental openness, literally acts as an antenna. You are twisting the dial, tuning out the static of normal human life to pick up the specific broadcast frequency of supercelestial energy. He even points out that modern devices like televisions and cell phones rely entirely on their structural antennas to function.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is completely breaking down the barrier between the physical and the spiritual. He argues you cannot separate the geographic and physical positioning of your body from your spiritual cultivation.
Right, they are completely linked.
Exactly. He points to feng shui and the orientation of buildings. He uses biological examples too, like leeks grown in dark environments turn pale and weak. Sweet oranges planted in cold northern climates turn bitter.
Oh, that's a great example.
He even claims that beautiful, majestic mountain ranges naturally produce great human talent, whereas barren, harsh environments produce unruly populations. The physical environment forces a specific structure, which then dictates the energy absorbed.
Okay, so we need the open, dissipative mental state to avoid entropy, and we need the physical posture to act as our antenna. How does the text actually instruct someone to execute this energy absorption in real time? Like practically?
Well, it requires entering the non-material world via deep consciousness. You don't just sit in a room, close your eyes, and do nothing. You mentally place yourself into those expansive environments we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
You mentally transport yourself to your own island on the celestial island's continent. In that boundless state of consciousness, the text claims your structure automatically begins pulling in the required energy.
And the visualizations he gives for this are incredibly vivid. He doesn't want you imagining a dark, empty void. He actually instructs you to visualize creating a pyramid in your mind,
Right.
but not a heavy pyramid made of stone. He suggests imagining a pyramid constructed entirely out of countless glowing stars, similar to the night sky at a place called Tompton Peak Sky Cliff.
And the geometry of the pyramid is very intentional here, as he claims pyramidal structures are naturally adept at absorbing cosmic energy.
My favorite visual option he offers, though, is imagining a pyramid made of bright, multicolored flowers. Just, picture that for a second.
That's beautiful.
It really is. You imagine yourself sitting perfectly cross-legged, holding a specific mudra with your hands, completely encased in this glowing geometric structure made of vibrant flowers. Or, alternatively, you stand up, you spread your arms wide, and you open your palms to the sky to receive the energy directly. It's a highly sensory, very active form of meditation.
It is active, but it also requires a carefully curated external environment. The author highlights the Lifechanyuan community as the ideal setting for this cultivation.
Right, you need the right real-world setting, too.
Exactly. Within the text, this community is designed specifically to provide a vision of heaven-like, a peaceful, harmonious ecosystem that naturally generates abundance.
He contrasts that community with the secular world, using the Chinese Spring Festival as an example. He asks you to compare celebrating the festival in the harmonious, managed environment of the community versus the chaotic, secular world. Where do you feel more fulfilled and at peace? Because where you feel best is where the high-level energy is. It's like a bee naturally gravitating toward the most nectar-rich flower.
Which is exactly why you also must aggressively eliminate energy drains. The text explicitly warns against engaging in conflict, arguments, anger, or jealousy.
Oh, because those create entropy.
Instant entropy. Cultivation, therefore, isn't merely the act of sitting inside a mental pyramid of stars. It is the curation of a holistic ecosystem. You have to build an internal and external life where energy is continuously supplied, not instantly bled dry by petty human drama.
Wow. Let's look at the incredible arc we've covered today. We started with the simple reality of a sheep refusing a fish, proving that structure dictates reality.
Right.
Then we explored the physics of entropy, learning that closed systems, whether it's a boarded-up house or a stagnant romance, will eventually succumb to equilibrium and die. We saw how discarding the heavy spacesuits of rigid human labels allows the mind to become a dissipative, open system.
Yep.
And we finally walked through the literal mechanics of using your physical posture as an antenna, visualizing pyramids of light to pull in the energy of the universe.
The synthesis of thermodynamics, biology, and consciousness here is just remarkably intricate. Think about your own life for a second. We've all had that feeling where a relationship, a job, or even our own daily routine starts to feel like a closed room.
Oh, definitely.
Whether or not you adopt the author's specific spiritual framework, the core mechanic holds true. You must maintain an open structure. You have to let the living water in to avoid stagnation.
You definitely do not want to become the rusted door hinge. As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today. If our physical postures, our mindsets, and our daily environments truly act as highly specific antennas that dictate exactly what we are capable of absorbing from the world around us, what invisible energies, what massive opportunities, or what living waters are bouncing right off of you today, simply because you haven't built the right internal structure to receive them yet.
That is a question worth carrying with you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your structures open, tune your antennas carefully, and we will see you next time.